If you've ever stood in Dollar Tree holding something plastic and thought, could this actually work in my garden? You're not alone. Over the past few months, my feed has been flooded with viral Dollar Tree garden hacks. Hanging planters made from kitchen strainers, mini greenhouses built from storage drawers, raised beds from laundry baskets, all promising the same thing: more food, more beauty, more growing space for almost nothing. And I'll be honest, some of them looked brilliant, some looked questionable, and one of them surprised me more than I expected. So instead of guessing, I bought 10 of the most viral Dollar Tree garden hacks I could find. I tested them in real outdoor conditions: wind, sun, rain, fluctuating temperatures, right here in a small patio garden setting. Because on this channel, we don't chase trends, we test them. If you garden in a small space, if you're working with a balcony, patio, townhouse yard, or rental, this is for you. Let's begin. Why Dollar Tree garden hacks go viral? There's a reason these ideas spread so fast. First, accessibility. Not everyone can build cedar raised beds. Not everyone owns power tools. Not everyone wants to invest heavily before they even know if they enjoy gardening. Dollar Tree offers low entry cost, no tool modifications, lightweight materials, and small space adaptability. For renters, beginners, and downsizers, that's appealing. But here's the issue. Outdoor gardening is not the same as indoor crafting. Sun degrades plastic. Water weakens structure. Soil is heavy. Wind lifts lightweight containers. And aesthetic matters too. Garden homes isn't about cluttered DIY chaos. It's about intentional, modern, rustic living, even on a budget. So, I evaluated every hack using 5 criteria. 1. Durability outdoors. 2. Visual appeal. 3. Plant health impact. 4. True cost versus longevity. 5. Small space practicality. Each hack will be rated worth it, situational, upgrade it, or skip it. Let's start with the first viral idea. Hack number 1. Plastic colander hanging planter. What the internet claims. The idea is simple. Buy a plastic colander from Dollar Tree, thread rope or chain through the handles, add potting soil, plant herbs or trailing flowers, and hang it from a shepherd's hook or balcony railing. It's marketed as pre-drained because of the holes, lightweight, perfect for small herbs, and aesthetic farmhouse charm. On camera, it looks clever. So I tested it with trailing thyme and compact basil. How I tested it? I lined the bottom lightly with coconut coir to prevent soil loss, filled it with quality potting mix, and hung it in partial sun on my patio. Watering was done every other day. Within the first week, I noticed something important. The reality, drainage was excellent, almost too excellent. Because the holes are large and numerous, moisture retention was extremely low. The soil dried out far faster than a traditional hanging basket. That means more frequent watering, higher plant stress in heat, and not ideal for thirsty herbs like basil. Structurally, it held up, but I would not trust it with heavier soil or larger root systems. And visually, from a distance, charming. Up close, unmistakably plastic. Verdict, situational. For lightweight, drought-tolerant trailing herbs like thyme or oregano, it works. For moisture-loving plants, not ideal. Would I repeat it? Only with a liner and only for specific plants. Already we're seeing a pattern. Drainage isn't the only variable. Let's move to something more ambitious. Hack number 2, laundry basket raised bed. This one went extremely viral. What the internet claims, use a laundry basket as a raised bed, line it with landscape fabric, fill it with soil, grow vegetables. It promises affordable raised bed solution, instant drainage, mobility, and deep enough for roots. I tested this with lettuce and dwarf kale. How I tested it. I lined it with breathable fabric, filled with quality potting mix, and placed it in full sun. Here's what surprised me. The reality. Plant growth was actually strong. The depth allowed proper root expansion. Drainage was excellent, no pooling. But two issues appeared. One, heat stress. Thin plastic walls heat up quickly. Soil temperature rose significantly in afternoon sun. Two, structural bowing. Once saturated with water, the basket sides flexed outward. In early spring, acceptable. In midsummer, potential root stress. Visually, it leans utilitarian, not refined. Verdict, upgrade it. If you paint it with UV-resistant spray, double line the interior, and keep it in partial shade, then yes, it can function well. But raw and unmodified, it's temporary. Still, growth performance impressed me. Now let's escalate. Hack number 3, plastic drawer mini greenhouse. This one caught my attention immediately. What the internet claims. Stack clear plastic storage drawers, flip them horizontally, use them as mini greenhouses for seedlings. It promises frost protection, wind protection, seed starting humidity control, and stackable system. I tested this in early spring during fluctuating nighttime temperatures. How I tested it. I placed seed trays inside, kept the lid slightly cracked for airflow, monitored condensation daily. The reality. This one surprised me. Temperature inside averaged 8 to 12 degrees warmer than outside air during early mornings. Seedlings showed faster germination, but condensation buildup was heavy. Without daily venting, mold would be a real risk. The plastic clarity was good, but UV degradation over time is inevitable. Still, performance was better than expected. Verdict, worth it with management. If you're disciplined about venting daily and only using this for early season extension, this is a strong budget solution. This was the first hack that truly impressed me, but we're not done, because the next one tested the line between clever and unnecessary. Hack number 4, wire cooling rack trellis. Yes, a baking rack. What the internet claims. Use a wire cooling rack as a small trellis for peas, beans, cucumbers, or decorative vines. Zip tie it to a stake or container. It promises cheap trellis option, compact footprint, clean grid design. How I tested it. I inserted it into a deep container and planted sugar snap peas. Initial setup looked minimal and modern, but then, the reality. The gauge of the metal matters. Dollar Tree racks are thin. As vines grew and weight increased, the rack began bending backward. Also, rust. After multiple waterings, light rust spots appeared. Functionally usable for microvines or ornamental climbers, but for food crops with weight, not long-term. Verdict, situational. Best for decorative vines, lightweight annual climbers, indoor or covered patios, not for heavy edible production. Still, aesthetically, it blended better than expected. At this point, I thought I had the pattern figured out. Some work with upgrades, some are temporary, none are revolutionary. And then I tested the 5th one, and this is where things shifted. Hack number 5, pool noodle drip irrigation system. This hack suggested using a hollow foam pool noodle as a slow irrigation channel. Puncture small holes along the length, connect it to a hose, let water disperse slowly. It sounds inventive, but does it function? We're going to test this properly, including water pressure, dispersion rate, and whether it can realistically replace soaker hoses in a small patio garden. Because what happened next genuinely changed how I looked at these hacks. And one of the upcoming ideas, especially number 7, completely shifted my expectations. When we left off, we were about to test one of the most creative and honestly one of the most questionable viral Dollar Tree garden hacks, the pool noodle drip irrigation system. This is where things started getting interesting. What the internet claims.
The concept is simple. Take a hollow foam pool noodle, poke small holes along one side, insert a hose into one end, and seal the other end. Then lay it across your garden bed. The idea is that water slowly seeps through the holes, mimicking a soaker hose, but for a fraction of the price. It promises even water distribution, reduced water waste, low-cost irrigation, and easy setup. If this worked, it would be extremely appealing for small patio beds or balcony planters. So, I tested it under controlled conditions.
How I tested it. I placed the modified noodle across a shallow raised bed with leafy greens. Water pressure was set to low. I monitored flow rate, distribution uniformity, soil penetration depth, and structural integrity after repeated use. And here's what happened. The reality. Water did disperse, but not evenly. The holes closest to the hose connection released significantly more water. The farther along the noodle you went, the weaker the output. After 20 minutes, the first third of the bed was saturated. The last third was barely damp. Foam compression was another issue. When soil weight or plant stems pressed against the noodle, water flow became inconsistent. And then there's longevity. Foam pool noodles are not UV stable. After just 1 week in direct sun, I noticed surface degradation beginning. Could it water plants? Yes. Could it replace a true soaker hose long term? No. Verdict: skip it. If you're experimenting short term, it's a creative idea. But if you care about consistent irrigation and plant health, invest in a proper soaker hose. This is where the cheap versus effective line becomes very clear. Now, let's move into something that went aggressively viral. Hack number 6, over-the-door shoe organizer vertical garden. You've probably seen this one. What the internet claims: hang a fabric shoe organizer on a fence or railing. Fill each pocket with soil. Plant herbs or flowers. Instant vertical garden. The appeal? Maximizes vertical space, perfect for renters, extremely affordable, looks lush when filled. I tested this on a sunny patio fence with compact herbs, thyme, chives, and parsley. How I tested it. I reinforced the grommets at the top for weight support. Each pocket was lined lightly to prevent soil loss. Then I observed drainage patterns, weight distribution, fabric durability, and plant growth. And here's where expectations shifted. At first glance, it looked beautiful, full, lush, productive, but water distribution was uneven. The top pockets drained directly into the pockets below. That meant top row dried quickly, middle row stayed consistently moist, the bottom row became oversaturated. Over time, the bottom row showed signs of root stress. Then came structural sagging. Even reinforced, the weight of wet soil pulled the organizer downward slightly. And visually, from a distance, charming. Up close, it leaned more temporary rental solution than intentional design. Verdict: situational. If you use lightweight soil mix, rotate watering carefully, grow shallow-rooted herbs only, and keep it in partial shade, it can work. But for long-term aesthetic integration in a modern rustic patio, it needs refinement. This is the hack that shifted my expectations because it worked better than I assumed, but required far more management than social media suggests. And now we move into frost protection. Hack number 7, plastic tablecloth frost cover. This one is straightforward. What the internet claims: use inexpensive plastic tablecloths as frost protection for raised beds, patio containers, and early transplants. It promises budget alternative to frost cloth, easy to cut and drape, reusable. I tested this during a late spring cold snap. How I tested it: I draped the tablecloth loosely over container-grown peppers, secured edges lightly. monitored temperature difference overnight. The reality: temperature inside averaged 3 to 5 degrees warmer than ambient air, which can absolutely mean the difference between survival and damage. However, plastic traps moisture. If left on during daylight hours, condensation builds quickly. Sun plus trapped humidity equals fungal risk. Also, plastic rests directly on leaves unless supported. That contact can cause cold transfer damage. Verdict: upgrade it. As an emergency frost solution? Yes. As a regular protective strategy? No. Better option? Use it temporarily with hoops or structure to create airflow space. This hack isn't bad, it's just incomplete without modification. Now let's move into composting. Hack number 8. Stackable storage bin worm compost system. This one intrigued me the most. What the internet claims: use stackable plastic bins to create a vertical worm compost system. Drill air holes, add bedding, add worms, stack bins as layers fill. For small space gardeners, composting is often the biggest challenge, so I tested this carefully. How I tested it: 2 stacked bins, ventilation holes added, bottom bin for leachate collection, kept in shaded patio corner. Observed: odor control, moisture regulation, structural strength, and ease of harvest. The reality? This worked. Surprisingly well. Worm activity was strong, breakdown was efficient, odor was minimal when properly balanced. The only concern: plastic thickness. The bins are thin. If overfilled or lifted improperly, they flex. But functionally, effective, compact, discreet. Verdict: worth it, with reinforcement. If you reinforce base, keep weight moderate, and store in shade, this is one of the strongest functional hacks tested so far. At this point, we've seen some overhyped ideas, some surprisingly effective solutions, several that need thoughtful modification. But we still have 2 hacks left, and one of them completely reframed my assumption about cheap equals temporary. We've tested irrigation systems that failed under pressure, vertical gardens that required more management than promised, frost covers that worked, but only temporarily, and a worm compost system that actually impressed me. Now we're down to the final 2, and one of these completely changed my assumption about what cheap can accomplish in a small patio garden. Hack number 9. Solar light plant markers. This hack wasn't about growing, it was about atmosphere. What the internet claims: take Dollar Tree solar path lights, remove the stake, attach plant labels, or use them to softly illuminate containers. Some creators even suggested inserting them directly into larger pots to create a glow from within effect at night. The promise? Elevated nighttime ambiance, clear plant identification, budget landscape lighting, no wiring required. I tested this in a small herb cluster on my patio. How I tested it: I placed 3 lights between containers. One was modified slightly to hold a small plant label. They received full sun exposure during the day. I observed charge strength, light duration, visual warmth, and weather resistance. The reality? They worked better than I expected. Light output was soft, not harsh blue, but a warmer glow. They lasted approximately 5 to 6 hours after sunset, and visually, this is where it surprised me. At dusk, the garden felt layered, intentional, calm. Not dollar store, not cluttered, just softly illuminated. Durability is the only long-term question. The plastic housing is thin, and the solar caps are not sealed for heavy rain exposure over years. But for seasonal enhancement, this is strong. Verdict: worth it. For small patios and renter-friendly gardens, this is one of the most accessible ways to elevate atmosphere without permanent installation. This was not the most practical hack, but it was the most emotionally satisfying, and sometimes that matters. Now for the final one. Hack number 10. Metal dish drying rack, tool, and supply station. This one wasn't heavily viral yet, but I kept seeing it quietly shared. What the internet claims. Use a small metal dish drying rack as a vertical pot holder, a tool drying station, a propagation display rack, a compact organization system. Instead of lying tools flat or stacking pots on the ground, this creates vertical order. I tested it as a patio organization system. How I tested it. Placed it against a sheltered wall. Used slots to hold hand trowel, pruners, spray bottle, seed trays, and small nursery pots. I monitored stability, rust development, and visual integration. The reality. This worked exceptionally well. The grid spacing naturally separates tools. Airflow helps them dry after washing. It prevents cluttered stacking, and visually, because of its simple metal structure, it blended seamlessly into a modern rustic aesthetic. It didn't scream hack. It felt intentional. Rust is a long-term factor, but in a covered patio space, it's manageable. This was the one that surprised me most, not because it was dramatic, but because it improved workflow, and workflow is what makes a small garden sustainable. Final rankings and honest reflection. Out of 10 viral Dollar Tree garden hacks, worth it. Plastic drawer mini greenhouse, with management, stackable worm compost bin, reinforced, solar light accents, and metal dish rack tool station. Situational, colander hanging planter, laundry basket raised bed, with upgrades, shoe organizer vertical garden, and wire cooling rack trellis. Upgrade it, plastic tablecloth frost cover. Skip it, pool noodle irrigation system. Here's the bigger takeaway. Dollar Tree hacks are not magic solutions. They are raw materials, and raw materials require discernment. Some viral ideas prioritize clicks over longevity, but a few, when thoughtfully modified, genuinely expand what's possible in small space gardening. The key is this. Budget doesn't mean chaotic, affordable doesn't mean temporary, and small doesn't mean limited. When you filter trends through durability, plant health, and aesthetic intention, you build a garden that feels calm instead of cluttered. That's the difference. If you enjoy seeing trends tested before you invest your time and money, this channel is built for you. Next, I'm testing affordable Amazon garden tools specifically for small patios, because not everything labeled compact is actually practical, and I suspect we'll uncover a few surprises there, too. I'll see you in the next one.